All right, you ready to go?
Yep.
All right, awesome. So you're level 222, 228 Illium,
Yep.
or like close to that. Maybe you're leveling soon. How are you
Mhm.
enjoying Illium, and how are you enjoying the game?
So I made it like first back when like COVID started, I guess, like in 2020. I kind of was really I really hated the class. It was honestly the reason I quit.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know, I just got bored over Christmas, I guess, like this year, and just kind of decided I'd play MapleStory again. My brother plays a lot, but
Mm-hmm.
and now like I can't honestly. I've tried a bunch of other classes. I can't play MapleStory unless it's at this class. Honestly,
Okay.
it's just like I just like sit still in maps and I just kill monsters. I guess it's pretty easy.
Mm-hmm. So the lazy mobbing is a big part of the what you like
Yeah,
about it.
I mean, I've tried like other classes. It's just not the same.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to bosses, is it also fun? What's like what kind of content do you like doing more? Are you more of a mobber, more of a bosser? Do you like to have a healthy mix of both, or?
I definitely like bossing. It's probably like it's a really fun aspect of the game, but Illium kind of makes it a little bit more challenging. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's like it's kind of a lot of timing when I gotta time my burst with my wing mode or whatever. But it's
Mm-hmm.
okay. I'll definitely. I mean, I saw they're giving an update to him where
Yeah,
they're
200
making his
seconds
like
or something.
yeah, that's pretty crazy. That's gonna make it a lot better. And
Yeah.
like the thing that charges your crystal faster, like makes you go straight into
Yeah.
or straight to 100%. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was
That'll make it a
cool.
lot better.
It was way weird that Illium didn't have any way of doing that. You
Yeah, I
know,
know.
most classes with some kind of gauge, I guess, except Arc, have some kind of way of just like full stacking it at some point,
Yeah.
and then on a pretty big cooldown, of course. But Illium didn't have anything like that, so it's pretty cool to have that, because you might even be able to like double wing in some
Yeah, that's
long
what I was
bursts,
thinking. I don't know
right?
if there's gonna be like a cooldown or something, or
I
I
don't
don't
think
know.
so. Didn't look like it. So
That'd be really cool.
just fly away, I guess.
Yeah.
But so the bossing is proving to be a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
But it's still pretty fun on the class because I mean I just fly around, just dodge stuff. But I don't know. I've tried other classes. It's just not as easy. Or like watching other classes, it doesn't seem as easy as
Hmm.
some other classes might be.
Yeah, there's definitely well, you're always going to keep some grass is greener in the other meadow kind of thing, right? For some
Hmm.
aspects, it'll always be like, oh, this class seems way easier to do this. But then, like you said, there might be a bunch of other downsides that are you might be like single issue on, and is like, okay, but this is still a deal breaker. I'm not going to switch over
Yeah.
because of this. So as long as you
Hmm.
know stay cognizant of the fact that something might look really good, but it comes at what cost, right? Sometimes you have to sacrifice a whole bunch of benefit that you are able to have now. So is there
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, so like where are you training at now? You're in Lacaline? Where are you at?
I was at Rev 3. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the map.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think like every class can kind of full clear that map. It looks
Yeah.
pretty simple. But
Especially you
I don't
just
know.
throw attack
I
one
don't.
side, throw attack the other
Yeah,
side.
basically. Yeah, that's why I love that map. That's why I'm still training. I mean, I just basically just throw
And
my little crystal around. But
your big summon just like slices
yeah, exactly.
the other half of the map.
Basically
Yeah.
full clears. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's definitely awesome training there. But I've
Mm-hmm.
tried like other places. Like I tried Red Dancing Shoes just because there's like sometimes there's like I get like 70% burning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's like a. But I'll go there sometimes just to. But it's not as easy to full clear, and I feel like the spawn rates at Rev 3 are just better. I don't know. It's just
Yep.
my opinion, I guess.
Have you
But
tried like battle analyses to like check the because I agree that how good a map feels is definitely important, but it's also good to know and to check if that feeling is correct, right?
Yeah,
And
I've tried the battle analysis.
Mhm.
I've like, but like whenever I do the battle analysis, I always end up doing something stupid, like going through a portal or something. And
Mhm.
then but I haven't really totally done like an hour at one map or an hour at the next map.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
yeah, so I don't know exactly the difference, but
Because it might be
right
really
now,
close, and then whatever feels better is going to be the better choice. But
yeah,
it
that's
might
true.
be not as close as you think, and then it's like, maybe it is worth, depending on how you're feeling, one map might be more worth it than the other one to spend your time
Mhm.
in.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I definitely need to do a little totem grinding sesh or whatever, but
Hmm.
and do that.
Yeah, because I was talking about it earlier, right before the session. I don't know if you were already in the stream, but someone was like, "Well, what map do I train in?" It's usually a good idea to kind of like gather data from other people who play the same class. I don't know if you're in the class Discord. Usually, you can get some good information there.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
I'm in the Discord.
Maybe a guildie
Yeah,
or
I mean,
something,
basically
or
just
just other people around your level, and you
yeah.
probably get a list of like 4 or 5 maps maybe that are like worth considering. And if you dedicate one totem to just trying out all those maps and kind of writing down like, okay, these were the best meserates, these were this was the fun and the easiest to loot, and this one was just the most fun out of all of them. You kind of like rank the maps, then based on your mood or based on, you know, what makes sense, you just go to the map that makes sense for you. And then if a map is full or, you know, whatever, or something like that, or, you know, laggy channels, things like that, you can always fall back to the other map. And then maybe you can also be like, oh, this map is slightly better, but it has 0 burn. This one is slightly worse, but it has 10 burn. That means that this one is definitely better for me now. And then, you know, not to say that like how you feel, like effects don't care about your feelings, not to say that, but something, it's part of the equation, right? So you want to make sure that you're not letting that dictate a little bit too much. But how you feel about it at the end of the day is very important, because that's what gives you the motivation and the energy to keep going, right? And I assume that you have, maybe we can segue into like some plans, like I don't know where you're at right now, like so we know where you're at mobbing wise. Where are you at bossing wise? Like what have you cleared solo and then party?
I can do CRA like basically up to Vellum. I don't know. Maybe if I lived through Vellum, I might be able to do it, but probably not.
Is
I
it
can
the
do
rocks?
KSAC and all this stuff. Yeah. I mean, the rocks are pretty annoying, but just other stuff is also. I mean, I don't know. I just end up, if there's a way to die out in a boss, I'll most likely find it. Like,
you'll find it, yeah.
First,
Okay.
Yeah, like the first like 15 times I do it, I just.
It's a skill, you know. It's a God-given gift.
Like I've been carried through MapleStory for so long, and it's just like I've died out through so many carries. It's ridiculous.
I mean, my argument would be is that probably the reason that you're dying out is because they're carries, right? There's a certain different level of being invested and a certain different level of engaging with content, maybe a little bit ahead of your time, that will just make you more prone to dying out as well, because there's just so many more unknowns in a boss fight, which gives you more situations where you just don't know the way out yet, and every single situation is a first, and every first is way more likely to catch you off guard.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's a bunch of times where I understand that in Vellum and CRA and stuff like that.
So, not to like tell you how to play, but like, how do you feel that you're playing the game now? Like you say that you do carries a lot. Is that something that you feel is you want to brute force through? You're not trying to learn the bosses. You're just trying to get the pieces and just trying to grind on higher level. Because that's why I asked in the beginning, right? Like, where are you like on a scale? Do you want to do more mobbing? Do you want to do more bossing? Seems that you enjoy the mobbing a lot with this character, but then when it gets more difficult and more complex on the bossing, you're kind of like, I'm not trying to, really challenge myself super hard on that. Like, I'll just get the equips through carries and then just come back later and then just kind of blow the boss up just to get the rewards. But I'm not trying to try a boss like 5 to 10 times to try to solo it. Like, I'll just grind the levels out and then come back later. Is that more?
I definitely I get carried like I guess kind of hard, but I haven't really played MapleStory a lot, so like I'm still working on like my first sets of superior like set and stuff like that. But
Well, that's very normal, by the way, right? I think
okay.
if you have your full set by like 240, I think that's early.
Oh, okay.
Just as
I thought I was a little late on stuff like that.
Well, yeah, and I think that's kind of a and I've talked about this a lot, not to like get too preachy or anything, but I think when it comes to other games and to the level of the equips and everything, I've seen a lot that people feel like they're slow, or made by other people feel like they're slow, or they're behind, or they should be faster. Whereas if this is like one of your first characters that you're really taking seriously and leveling to this point, if you're right now at the point where you feel like you can solo CRA, that's probably like a fine point to be at. And for some people, that's even not possible, because you have different kind of mechanical restrictions, you have different kind of logistical constrictions, maybe your internet, your computer, whatever, right? So it can be fine that you still need to like duo it or something, and that you can't quite brute force it yet. That's totally fine. And then if you want to be able to get it to like full Abzo and something, if you have that by like 235, by 240 or something, that's fine. And then you're going into Helix with that stuff. And then like around 240, 242, hopefully before 245, you got the full Superior set. And then you go into the Sweetwater stuff. And then by 250, you can get everything to like 17, everything to Legendary, and then you can use that stuff to hopefully get from normal Lucid away and then over normal will, and then try to get into hard lucid and hard will by 250, 255, something like that. If it's your first character, that's totally reasonable. So some people get better with those external pressures and be like, hey, you should be trying to do this, or like, oh, people around this level have already done this. I think for some people that pressure works well to motivate them, but for other people I feel like it makes them feel like inadequate. And I would hate that to happen. It kind of sounds like you're feeling like you get a little bit of pressure, like people telling you that you should be able to do more right now. Is that?
Yeah, I definitely feel. I mean, I definitely feel behind, but at the same time, like, but I mean, I'm like eventually I'll be able to solo like Chaos Vellum or something like that. You know
I mean, eventually you will always, right? As long as you keep moving forward.
Yeah, exactly.
You're gonna get better.
I don't care that much, but at the same time, like, it kind of sucks to feel a little bit behind at my level. But I don't think I'm that far behind. I don't know. You'll see, I guess.
Well, you said like I don't have full Helix yet. I would be, for most characters, if you already even have one piece, I would say you're ahead.
Oh, geez, I'm ahead.
Yeah,
I got the earrings.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I thought the.
Yeah, because like if you get your first piece like in the early 230s, and then another one in like mid 230s, and then the last one around 240, and then hopefully you can buy the one around 240 or a little bit behind, a little bit after that. If this is like your third, fourth, fifth character, right? You've got like an 8k Legion decked out. You probably got like hookups for carries the day you hit 180, and you're exchanging carries with other people. And usually by this point you have your 2 drops already, and you're just saving up the coins, right? That makes more sense. But if it's your first character, no problem with that whatsoever. It's a huge buff though, right? And it's definitely a huge target to work towards, but it doesn't mean that because you don't have it yet you're behind. It just means that you'll have to compensate a little bit with more damage sources from or sources of stats, right, from other directions, and that'll just have to help you a little bit pick up the slack, right? Because the set bonus for Helix is so amazing. If you can get it earlier, that's great, but the kind of the downside as well is to getting things very early is that you kind of run out of things to upgrade towards very quickly. And for some people, that's demotivating, because they could be like, okay, I'm full Helix because of carries. I'm full CRA because I was full Absolab because of carries. By the time I'm like 234 or something. And now what is the next step? Is Arcane. And you're 234, you're like, right? And then it seems
so far away.
Yeah, and then it seems like, okay, I'm going to have to work even harder. And then, you know, you get carried in all of that, and then, okay, now you get like 3 Arcane pieces, maybe with events, you get full Arcane by the time you're like 245. Now what do you have to do? Oh, now you have to go do Cernium dailies. You're always, again, depending, for some people, that distance between you and the next target can be motivating, but for some people that can be demotivating as well. And if you're constantly like trying to just by the skin of your teeth grab on to like the runaway truck to just like drag behind it so you can get ahead faster, by the time you let go, you're going to be somewhere where you're like, oh, damn, what do I do now, you know? I like to go about it. I have a completely different approach. I like to go about it like much more slowly, much more controlled. But I don't. I have more like the whole process in mind. Like that's where I get the value for. Like, am I having fun? Is this going well? Is like, do I feel like I am utilizing what my character can do? Am I trying to do the content around my level? I'm much more casual in that regard. Like I put a lot of hours in, so I get pretty far. But I'm much more casual in the sense that I don't really care if I have. You know, like my marksman, for example, got to 250, but I didn't even have any Abzo pieces. Like I didn't need them. I was able to make my way around. But I see then some people like at 210 full Abzo, like, oh, I need a struggle party for C-Vel just to get backup pieces and stuff. And I'm like, you could play the game like that, and you know, and we can go from that perspective. I'm just trying to feel out to make sure that you are going about the game in a way that makes sense to what you want, and that you feel like you have the liberty to choose how you want to do it, rather than maybe external pressures putting a little bit too much expectation on you that you end up kind of doing something that you're not totally comfortable with. So I'm just trying to feel that out, where you're at with that, because there's a lot of ways of playing the game, right? I'm trying to be a little bit anti, like, this is the way, this is the only correct way, right? You have to be this strong at this point. I'm like, sure, yeah, because I don't know how many of my commands you've seen, like I have the progression grid where I just like, hey, these are like numbers. If you try to work towards these, you'll be fine, you know? It's not like you have to tick all these boxes, but if you're lost, you can look at these numbers and see like, oh, I'm way off on this. Maybe work a little bit more on that and you'll be fine. You can restore the balance that way. So I guess I'm trying to see if there's, when you say you feel behind, I'm kind of maybe jumping on that a little bit too much, but I want to make sure that there's nothing there to kind of like sort out before we build on the whole session with that in mind, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like I'm too. I don't want to take the game too fast. I guess you could say. Like, I don't want to. Obviously, I'm not like a super big grinder, but
Mm-hmm.
it'll definitely take me a while to get to 240 from here. But
Yeah.
I don't think. Yeah, I definitely want to take it a little bit slow. I don't want to burn myself out of the game. Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, it does make
So
it
like, if I
easier
get,
to
yeah,
go to the new areas and kill the higher level monsters when you have the stronger base gear, but you're still gonna have to upgrade them, right? I mean, you probably noticed that.
yeah,
It's not like, oh, you get an Abzab glove, now everything dies in one hit. Like, you still need to put the work in, and you still need to know the rotations and learn the bosses, and right? It's a
yeah.
tool to help make it a little bit easier, but it's not a get out of jail free card in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I completely agree.
and how are you with like with reward points, with totems? Like, what kind of schedule do you play on?
Um, I definitely last month I didn't get through all my totems, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely gonna try to do this month to get through all my totems if I have enough reward points, honestly. But
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely gonna be a grind. I feel like to get through 15 or so they give you or something like that through a month.
Yeah, 15 from the reward
Um,
shop, and then 2 extra from the
oh
daily
yeah,
gifts as well, right? Yeah. So usually people
yeah,
you go by 17. I almost never use all of mine either. Like, I think last month I used 3, and one of that was on the
yeah. It's
last
just
day. So yeah.
I didn't even know my reward points expired. I was watching your stream a few days
Hmm.
ago, and you mentioned something like that, and then I noticed like a bunch of my reward points were expiring like a few days ago, and I just
Oh
bought a
yeah.
few totems. But
Yeah, I
so
try to
that was
always
pretty crazy.
say like the last few days of the month. I always try to highlight that a few times during the streams because,
Yeah,
as many people already know, there's always a bunch of people who don't know. So if I can save 3 or 4 people's all of their reward points, that's always worth it.
yeah. I didn't even notice that. But
Yeah,
thank
because they
you.
last like the one extra running month, right?
Hmm.
Okay, so you're good on reward points. You have access to as many totems as you want, and yeah, but you're not filling out totems, so you're not going. Or are you considering or thinking of any questions about like kana farming for funding your account, anything like that?
Um, no, I honestly I kind of don't want to mess into that. I mean, maybe eventually I'll definitely try to level up Akana to like this level, but I feel like it's like it was such a grind to get like my Illium here that like it's
Mm-hmm.
like would I be able to get another character to like 235? Like I don't know what's like a good meso level for Kana, but definitely feels like it'd be tough to get another character up to here. In my
Mm-hmm.
opinion, it's just my I don't want to get too crazy on leveling and stuff like that with different characters. I mean, I don't like that's another question I had about Legion. I guess we'll get into that later, but
Yeah.
in terms of
Yeah.
funding my account, I feel like my Illium does okay, like with
Mm-hmm.
Meso coupons and stuff like that. And I guess once I get like more drop gear, I don't know.
I think all characters can do fine, but it depends on how much you're enjoying. Sometimes people are like, okay, I can grind on this character, but I just want to get the most experience possible with this character. I'm not trying to like hop around the map, make sure I get every bag. Like that pressure on me when I'm trying to grind, I don't want that pressure. I just want to be able to like turn
Hmm.
my brain off and just kill, and that'll hurt my rates. And then if I play so much that I could just have a con on the side where, I'm watching fucking anime or something, like watching Netflix,
Yeah.
and I could basically turn my brain off, and then I could just hop around the map every 2 minutes and just get these giant walls of bags, and then that can fund the whole dog and pony operation so that when I'm grinding, I can just turn my brain off and grind, and when I'm farming, I can turn my brain off and farm, and I could just separate those two. For some people, that just works way better, and if that works for you,
Hmm.
that's great. In general, Kana has great value, right? Link Skill Legion is great. And it can also be very useful if you have some kind of events where you want to cap on a daily resource that is can buy items that are transferable, for example. Then Akana is also great because it'll be the easiest one. You don't need to dedicate totems. It can kill pretty much in any map, right? It's very flexible in that way. Plus, if you want to
Hmm.
scale up getting like weekly items for Abzalab or stuff, Akana is always a very easy one to be like, hey, someone else is like, because everyone has a kana right somewhere on their account, and be like, hey, I carry your kana, you carry my kana, and you like exchange, and then you can double up the pieces for the for Abzalab weeklies, for example, because those are transferable through your storage, right? So that
Yep.
can also be a way to help speed up getting Abzalab if you're trying to do multiple characters to fund them. So like for your whole account, the kana will always maintain a great value. If you're trying to have it like on the side as a way to make more money, but you might only do that in a few months because of the upcoming changes to Kishin, it probably won't have that function anymore because it's also going to be beholden to whether or not it can have access to totems, and it's going to share probably the max amount of totems just the same with your Illium. So at that point, your Illium is probably going to be already in a better place to make more money than your Kana. So if you're going to consider doing it in like 4 to 5 months, it's probably not going to be worth it for that function anymore. Just
Okay, yeah.
just to clarify that
Yeah, I
part, I
heard they were
guess.
getting rid of something on kind of where like the
Yeah.
totem thing or whatever. I don't know what that.
Yeah, they have Kishin, right, which is
exactly
basically the function of Totem. It has 50% uptime, but you can kind of play around it to get it to 100% uptime. And that's why Kana is so broken, because you can scale up to how many ever hours you play beyond the Totem. So that's why, for people who play so much that they run out of Totems by like day 10 of the month, right, and have 20 days left, then a Kana to farm with is like a great source of income for your entire account. And you can keep scaling up on your main character without being beholden to off-Totem rates, which is a dirty term, right? Because it's like a huge step back, or you have to go to huge maps, which as an Illium might work with your summons, with your orb, with your flight skill. Your off totem rates might actually be okay with Illium compared to a lot of other classes, because obviously like going around maps for some classes is pretty difficult, right? Illium with the flying and everything could probably have a better time there. But yeah, I guess that's for like the aspect of like how to fund your account. But it seems like you're content to just keep it within your Illium, and then hopefully Illium can keep scaling up, can keep killing with drop rate meso gear, and then just make money, and then upgrade your Illium as much as you want, and maybe take a little bit of money off of that and throw it into other characters as you want to change the roles of the other characters in your account, right?
Yeah.
And
that's what I kind of want to do.
And do you envision going the route of like bossing mules? I don't know if you've heard that term. And
yeah, I've heard that term before. I definitely want to get another character that can do CRA, but maybe like a jet or something. I have like a 190 jet, but I don't know. It's definitely. I'm not like the biggest grinder. I've already said that before, but like, it's definitely gonna be pretty hard to get to 210 again. I feel like it's so easy, but it's still so hard for me. Like, I just like lose focus after like an hour, and like I just start grinding, and then I just lose focus and just walk away from my computer, honestly.
Yeah, does it just not captivate you for long periods of time? Like if you do a totem on an Illium, do you have to really like push yourself to go through the whole 2 hours?
I'd say I get through like an hour and like 45 minutes, and then I'm kind of just like, wow.
I mean, if you get an hour and 45 out of every totem, that's pretty high efficiency overall. I would say that's a win.
Yeah, like I love MapleStory. Like it's super fun, but at the same time, like if I'm just like zombieing there for like 2 hours, it's kind of hard.
That could be the downside of having the more easy farming, right? Is that it does,
true, yeah. Just sit still and just spam the like 3 buttons.
Yeah, it can. Yeah, just get very repetitive after a while, and if you need, if you run out of shows to watch on the side or something,
I know.
If my progression video ends before your totem ends, you're like,
Yeah, I've definitely watched a lot of your videos, the progression videos on YouTube, so those have been helpful too.
Okay. So I don't know if you have like a list of questions, because I think we have a good, clear view on what you want to do and everything. We can go into like the systems within the game and kind of go by like what your understanding is of all the like all the commands that I have, and to which extent you get everything. And if you have like questions on specific topics, we can go through that. You did mention Legion. Are you okay to start there?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. So you're familiar with the links command, with like the links Legion, like what order I usually advise? Because you were talking about like how hard it might be to get to 210 on another character, right? The way that I
heard you. What were you gonna say?
Well, the way that I designed that is kind of to snowball the growth of your account, to make sure that every next character can hopefully optimally increase the speed with which the next character can level, and then hopefully as a result you end up getting to the finish line as fast as possible, even if it might feel sometimes like a bit of a detour because you're not directly leveling something that your Illium might need. If you're leveling something that 6 other characters might need, and then those 6 characters can level quickly, and they all have things that your Illium needs, then in the end you get to a stronger Illium a little bit faster, right?
Yeah, I definitely have not been optimizing a Legion, like leveling very well. I mean, most of the classes I've leveled, besides my Luminous, I feel like have been not incredibly useful.
Okay.
Maybe like a Mercedes with the XP. I don't know what other classes I want to see like super useful, but
so how do you go about choosing which character you do next? Do you just meeny, miny, mo, and the character select, or
just kind of honestly by how fun they look on like YouTube. I don't know. Honestly, like my Night Lord didn't look fun, but I honestly kind of wanted to see what like a level 200 Night Lord looked like. So, but I kind of slowed down after like I heard you say something like a 100 to get to level 140. Just do Zakum and Monster Park. So I'm doing that on him. But
yeah, for like the efficiency part, right? So if you find characters that you just don't really enjoy, I would say just default to the efficiency part, so you can at least get the value out of them, but make them negatively impact your gameplay in your day in your life as little as possible. But if it's characters that you absolutely enjoy and you want to play a little bit more, then go for it. Take that space and enjoy that time that you have with that character. And that's kind of the same way I look at like learning bosses and growing as well in your main character, because at a certain point, once you're past a certain point, you can't. The only way to go down is by basically gimping your account, right? Like unequipping boost nodes, unequipping equips to make it harder again on how it would have been at that point. But that's never the exact same experience as like being in the moment and trying to see how can I squeeze the most potential out of my tools at this point and actually kill the boss if it's like mathematically possible. That's why I usually hamper up people for like the first playthrough. Try to do it at your own pace. Try to just see what you can do and how far you can get by yourself. And then if you're like, okay, I've really tried, I reached my limit, then you can always call for the help of other people. You can do duo, trio, quattro runs, whatever. You can maybe get a carry if you're like, I tried, but fuck this, because it's really hard to go back and get that same level of experience ever again if you've been carried over the hump already, right? It's just a different way of growing there. But some people care about that. Some people functionally don't care about that. So it comes down to what you want. But to get back to this, like if you do see characters where you're like, okay, these are useful for the account, but I can't be bothered to level this character, like it's just not my thing at all, just put them to side and just be like, hey, if there's ever a mega burn, do this one, because I can't be bothered with that. Or if this one, maybe do a Terror burn, right? If it has a very good double S Legion link, a Legion buff, or a very good level 3 link skill, then you could be like, okay, maybe this can be a good Terror burn. If it can be a nice bossing mule on top of that, then that could be a door you keep open as well, right? You can maybe get some easy nodes early on, maybe get like one of those fire starter rings or something, right? Not fire starter, sorry, the burning, the flame burning ring, which is a nice way of getting some extra funding on a character. And that way you can get a little bit more value out of the Terror burn than just the levels for your Legion, basically.
Yeah, no, I also have a question, like, is there like a sort of like a wall in Legion that I hit like on my main character that like I get to like a point where I honestly just like can't proceed without like leveling up my Legion?
It depends on the class. Some classes just have very good base kits, and it usually comes down to like crit rate, IED, and to some extent crit damage. Like if those metrics are pretty good, a character can theoretically just like get to Black Mage with like 1k Legion or with less than 1k Legion. But you're just making it a little bit harder for yourself, but you could do it. I think in general, there's always a level of efficiency where you're like, by the time you get to 250, you probably want to be like at least at like 4k Legion, but probably be working towards 6k Legion, just because in the general investment of how much time you put into every single thing, by that time, it's not going to feel like a huge time commitment to start up a new character and get it to 140. This is going to be a thing you do on the side during a day, but it's not even going to be the main thing that you do that day. But right now for you, it might be. It might be like if I start a new character and try to get it to 140, there goes all my playtime for the day, right? But once your Legion and your Link skill starts rolling, that new character is going to be so strong. You're going to have so many like Monster Park potions. You're going to have so many Legion coins to buy EXP coupons where there's going to be an event going on. You have like the egg potions, right? The extreme growth potions. And then all of that combined is just going to make every new character such like a flash in your day and not even something you have to think about twice, that Legion will make sense. Right now, if you think about 6k Legion, you're like, oh god, look at how much I've done so far, so I need to do like 7 times that. It's like, right? That seems almost unfathomable as ever being worth your time. But eventually, it does become worth your time, because like, you're going to be looking at every single upgrade being like, oh, this is like 12 bill, 14 bill upgrade. You're like, okay, I make about 500 mil an hour, so that's like 28 hours of upgrade. It's like, or I can spend that time doing Legion and get like the double the value guaranteed by spending the time rather than RNG on my equip, right? That you might not even have backups for. And at that point, mathematically, it'll just make sense.
Yeah, I definitely needed to work on it a lot. I don't know if you have like the first, what are like the, I got Luminous because of the IED, obviously. And then, I don't know, Jet sounded like he had something cool, but I honestly don't even know how that works. And then,
yeah, Jet is critical damage for the Legion piece. That's the main value that they have. And they level very quickly, right? So it's fast Legion levels, and it's the critical damage. So it's a good bonus. So I have the links command. I can link it to you if you haven't seen it yet. But basically, I try to go by like what are the most important stats. So those are outlined in the yellow columns here. and which characters give that most, and then what is the second most important, and then when does like bossing come in, right? So hopefully by that time the bosses start having more defense. The boss fights start getting a bit more challenging. So hopefully by that level, around that time, you can start working on these characters a bit more. Some of those you already have because they're connected to the earlier characters, right? And then what do you do to basically like min-max? Just put anything on the board that still gives you something rather than nothing at all. And then which are just genuinely like not important at all. But you see most of these characters also, they're already connected to higher stats. But I like to see the value for the Legion, so for the member bonus when you put the character in the board, and the value for the Link skill kind of as a package deal. And I use both of those to influence this. So, you start with the EXP, and then crit rate is insanely important. If you haven't worked on, it seems like you haven't worked on the crit rate as much yet. If you get the crit rate up on a new character, you're gonna blow stuff up, and you're gonna level so fast. You're basically gonna do the level that you do at level 60 now. You're gonna do that at level 5. It's that big of a difference, which means you keep one-shotting so much longer, which means you don't need to throw as many buffs on or feel like you need to throw as much money on and like star forcing and stuff. You can just keep going and keep rolling your face on your keyboard, right? And keep turning your brain off and just level. And you get level 60 in no time, and you maybe even want to keep going to level 100, and then just kill Zakum, and then just ditch the character. And then you have like a horde of characters that's just anywhere between 100 and 140. You just log in and do Zakum, and every day it's like 10, 15, 20 levels on your Legion, just for free basically. You just log in, kill Zakum, log out. It's like a minute per character. And that's when you can really start brute forcing the Legion levels. And so in the beginning, it's mainly just about making more characters. Because I think right now, how many characters in total do you have?
Those are all my characters. 5.
5? Yeah, so there's
5.
So the top 40 characters, their levels count for Legion. So you have 35 more slots. And if all of those are just level 60, right? When you think about making one level 60, that doesn't take that much time, right? Some have like a lot of storyline in the beginning, so they're a little bit slower. But like Jets, for example, is also very, very fast, right? So you just immediately can start leveling. Yeah, if you have 35 more level 60s, that's 2.1k Legion. So then you're at 3k basically.
Yeah, I have a Demon Avenger, but kind of that class is I don't know. I gotta
careful now. Yeah. Careful.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. No,
I was at like level 40 or something. I was just like, yeah, this is too much.
Not your thing. Yeah, no, that's fine.
No, I'll definitely get him to like level 70, or at least like whatever the first link is.
Exactly. Yeah, that could be the thing, that you just get them to 70, and then you just move on to the next character. And then every single character, as long as you like roughly go by this order, every next character is going to be faster and faster and faster. And then once everything is 70 and you have 40 level 70s, you're at 3k Legion. So what that means is that as long as you have the Legion coins, you upgrade your grid, you'll get access to the outside grids. You get access to critical rate and critical damage. At 2k, you get one expansion. 3k, you get another expansion. And at 3k, you also get to put 5 extra characters on the board instead of just 1 per usual level. So what's going to happen is you're going to be able to fill out your critical rate and your critical damage, and you basically use the middle of the board to like connect the outsides, basically.
I've seen that before.
Yeah, exactly. And then every other character that you play is now suddenly, because of the characters that you made, right? So for critical rate, you have like the Phantom, the Beast Tamer. Make sure you make a Beast Tamer and a 0 on your account, by the way, before February 8th, because they're not going to be able to be created again probably for 6 months. And you want both of those on your account. So make sure you have them created in this week. You don't have to like level them up immediately yet, but have them created. What are the other ones? Like the Explorer Archers, basically, right? And then the Night Lord, but you already have that one. All of that crit rate combined, plus the critical rate in your grid, is basically going to give every new character close to or at 100% critical rate and extra critical damage, which will just make them hit like trucks. It's like you spent like 100 mil on every character, but you haven't spent that money. So you're going to save a lot of money having to spend on them just by the funding from the Legion. And then all you do is like you slowly get them from 70 to 100 at your own pace. You do 1 a day, you do 3 a day, you do 1 every 2 days, whatever you want, but just slowly and steadily keep doing a little bit. And if you get them all to 100, well, now you're at 4k. So another Legion space, more crit if needed, more critical damage, right? And for your main, more access to maybe boss damage, ignore defense, whatever you need on your main character. And then it's just Zakum time. Just get them all to 140. If you enjoy the character, play it at your own leisure. If you don't like it, just log in, Zakum, log out. Once they're all 140 and you have a few characters higher level because of Terror Burns, because of your main, now you're at 6k Legion. And boom, that's where we want to get you by 250, right? They're there. So it's
Yeah,
it's just
feel,
it's just power in numbers basically. And the beginning is tough. All beginning is tough, right? Because the characters are just at their weakest. That's why a lot of people hate Mercedes, right? Because first of all, people don't like complicated combo characters, and second of all, they usually play it as their first or second character, which means it's just weak, right? And that doesn't really make for very fun playtime. But if you go back to a Mercedes when you have like its 7k Legion and you throw a little bit of money in it to Star Force, you'll be like, wow, and you look at the combos and you like try it a little bit, you're like, oh, this character's like way better than I thought. And you probably had a little bit of that with Illium as well, but Illium got a lot of help since the release.
Yeah, definitely.
On release, they were
really
bad.
Underpowered on my Night Lord. Yeah, they were really bad. But yeah, I definitely felt really underpowered on my Night Lord and Jet.
He's a rough start on Night Lord, yeah.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I kind of just hit a wall on my Night Lord where I couldn't do any damage. I just had to like reset and just like Star Force and actually like Oculus Cube a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. You want to get the occults in there. I mean, and that's the other thing. As you get more access to those resources, like the occult cubes, you'll get more potential stamps, you'll get more potential scrolls, right? But in the beginning, you won't have to rely on that as much, right? So you don't have to like immediately get everything potential, immediately roll everything, because your Legion is just going to be your funding for your Legion and your links combined is going to be your funding for your entire account. So at that point, you don't need to throw as much money onto it anymore. Only if you want to start pushing like past 140 and you want to go from 140 to 200 when you want to go to 8k Legion. But then you have that complete liberty to do what you want to do. But you'll basically be able to play every character as is, at least up to 140, some up to 150, right? Some up to 200, some up to 210, depending on the events. And you'll get some extreme growth potions. So you might even get some characters up to 150 and then throw some of those potions up and get it to like 170, 180. Usually the characters that have like really nice double S Legion blocks, right? Like the Jet, but Jet's already close, but maybe like a Hayato and a Shade, right? Because they get that critical damage. And those will be really nice. So as long as you roughly look at this order and you're like, I have this in the back of my head. These are the characters and this is the general order that I'm going to be working on them. Again, I don't want to tell you like this is what you have to do, but if you're ever just wondering or you just don't know what to do next, just go down the list, see the first character that you don't have yet and work on that one. You can never go wrong because they just have so much value for your account.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking at a bunch of the EXP like Mercedes. I definitely want to level up Mercedes. Maybe my Demon Avenger definitely into a little higher level. Just have to grind through that.
Even if it's just 70. If you add all of the just level 1 links up together, that's already so much funding, so much more funding than you would have now. That's just going to carry you over like an extra 10, 20 levels. And an extra 10, 20 levels on 40 characters is 400 to 800 levels, which is 1 to almost 2 Legion level ups, right? That's how you want to see it. It's just power and numbers in the beginning, and once that ball start rolling, you'll feel it. Usually, it's around like 2k, 1.5 to 2k. People start feeling like, oh, it's picking up a little bit, and at 3k, it's like, oh, it's on. You know, like the big Legion board, all the crit, and all the characters on the board, you start covering way more. And then once you get to 6k, on one hand, it'll feel like I've got the board, I've made it, and on the other hand, you're like, I can only fill like 1/8 of my board. Like I want to get to 8k because this is cucked. But you'll be at 6k for a while, and it'll be like you can fill all of the critical damage, all of the ignore defense, maybe a little bit of the crit rate or boss damage, whatever you need. And those are big clumps, right? That's 20% critical damage if it's filled. And then if you're really psycho, you can go to a Legion like mine, and then you can just have such a crazy amount of buffs, right?
Like I saw you had like 120,000 coins or something. It was
that's a problem. It's like 40 IED, 40 boss, 18 crit rate, 20 critical damage. Like imagine any new character you make and you immediately give this to it, plus all of these member bonuses, right? And then all of the links on top of that. Your character is just like a level 100 at level 1. Because there's just, you're getting all of that for free. The chunk of how much that is compared to what usually the base numbers are that the character has to deal with is just such a disparity. I give this example a lot. Like when I was starting on the Lara, I was playing together with Super Amy, and she usually plays on non-reboot, and she was starting at the same point as me, but I was doing 200x her damage. Like she was hitting 200s and I was hitting 40ks, but we had the exact same stuff on, right?
Yeah.
But it's just Legion and Links is such a huge part. it's 1000%. Yeah, it's huge. So
I definitely understand. Like more and more I play, I definitely understand that there's like Legion's like one of the biggest like mechanics I guess in this game. It's crazy how good it can be.
Yeah, because it's the huge departure from looking at your damage range for anything, right? Because if you don't have the critical rate, critical damage, ignore defense, and boss damage, like those big four, and they come in such a huge part from your board, from your member bonuses, and from your link skills. If you don't have those on point, you can have the biggest range in the world, but you might not do any damage. Your damage is just shit because you need those other parts at play, and you need those optimized to commit the damage. Otherwise, it just doesn't go through to the boss or to the monsters even. You have no crit rate. Half of your lines is a non-crit. I mean, you've probably forgotten like a crit link every now and then, or switch your legion around and like see a bunch of non-crits, and immediately monsters start living. Your rates plummet. And you're like, I need to change this. You know, like non-crits just start triggering you after a while. It's like everything has to be a crit because I must be forgetting something. Because your kill speed just plummets, honestly, because your critical damage doesn't apply, and that's going to be a huge part of your damage. So. Go for it.
With Jet's link skill, it's like the core or whatever. What am I exactly supposed to do with that? Like, you probably have a guide on I'll watch later, but
yeah, I don't have a specific guide for it. A lot of people kind of skip it and get back to it later, unless you're maining the Jet, you know, because then you're always sitting on your own link skill, right? So then you might as well take it. I talked about it in one of the recent progressions, but basically there's cubes, 3 types of items in the cash shop that you can use. One is just a reroll plus a chance to tier up, and then once you get to the highest tier, you get different configurations. The total stats depends on your level, but you know, as soon as you're over level 120, you get the highest possible amount of stats. I believe it's 125, but you know, we'll have to check back on that video. And then it just randomly distributes them over stats. So it's like the 4 base stats and then weapon and magic attack. One of those 6, it just gives you random points. And then you have one item that allows you to rotate the configuration in the hexagon clockwise if the configuration is correct, but it's in the wrong spot where the stats are. So you can kind of see it as your as the middle part of your Legion board, basically, right? It's like it rolls a random amount of all of those stats, well, excluding HP and MP. And you can like rotate it clockwise if you want to make it fit the stats that you want. And then you have another NX item that allows you to lock it in place for 30 days at a time, and you can stack that up to 360 days. So once you get the right stat, usually that's all of those items cost mezzo, so it's like if you want to settle for like something on the lower end and you want to lock it for like a decent amount of time but not super long, you could probably pay like 1 bill and get a pretty good link skill out of it. If you want to go more like, okay, I want a main stat, good secondary stat, and high weapon or magic attack, and I want to lock it in for a whole year, you're looking more at like 2.5 to 3 bill expense. But mostly people leave it a little bit because it's a financial investment and you want to invest that money into character slots instead and just throw out your Legion, because then all of those little buffs together will overpower what the Jet Link just by itself can do.
Okay. Yeah, that helps. Thank you.
Yep. Because like the Hayato is like a small version of the possible Jet Link skill, but you just get it for free immediately, right? So people will use that one in the beginning to train, and then once you have the money and everything, you can throw the Jet over there. But then it comes down to calculations of like how effective is damage, you know, because you have a lot of damage links. Like how effective is that for you versus how effective is this for you versus do you need IED, do you need crit rate, and a lot more, do you need utility and survivability? There's a lot more possibilities later on. So the Jet Link is always kind of like on the cusp of probably just making it if you're purely mobbing, but probably just not making it if you're bossing most of the time. So people don't heavily invest into it generally.
Okay.
But yeah, that'll make more sense if you just throw everything into a calculator and the machine will just tell you like yes or no, and then you can go hard basically. I guess for I don't know if you have link skills here specifically separately. Oh, you have them here, yeah. For link skills and Legion, did you have any questions, or do you feel like the links command and how we just talked about it, do you feel like that properly answers it?
Yeah, that answers all my question. It's it's pretty simple now.
Okay. So any other topic, you would just want to go to the next one, or is there any topic that you feel like you have the most, you have more questions about that you feel like needs to be addressed?
We can go whatever whatever you wanna move to next, honestly.
Okay. I guess we can check the VMatrix. It's right next to here. Do you have any questions about that?
Not exactly. Other than like, no, there's not really any. I was in the Illium Discord. I kind of got all the Trina. It's kind of, I don't know, like, if there's any like tips that you have just by seeing it.
There's I'm not super familiar with the boost node, so I see like a little cat with a with a pink thing over his head. So I'm like trying to look up what am I even looking at here. Region Javelin, Machina, reaction, destruction, Longinus Spear, Umbral. Oh, is that Umbral Brand? Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
okay. So this
the
one
one
is
on the
more.
top right, yeah, is the cat with the ear. That's the Unreal brand.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So you know about the levels you go to. Eventually, you consolidate them into every skill being only on 2 boost nodes, right?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Well, because you can max boost the skill to 60, right? 60 times. And then a boost node itself can go only up to 25, but in a level 5 slot, so that'll take it to 30. So if you want to optimize, which the goal there is optimization with your boost node, so you can have a maximum amount of slots available for skill nodes, because those are going to be very useful. And you'll probably find that some skill nodes are very effective in some areas and not effective in some other areas. Or you'll find them a little bit more effective in some than others. And then you might consider switching out, like the holy symbol is really nice at the end when you kill a boss, but during the whole boss fight it doesn't do much. So as you get access to more skills and as you get maybe, more burst oriented, you might want to throw in like a goddess blessing or something like that. Or as you get more mobbing oriented, maybe some skill just takes more time, like the blue portal thing. I think in some maps it could be amazing, and in some other maps it's just more time to set up than to actually be worth it, because you can just clear with your other skills already. And then you want to replace it to maybe just increase your base damage a little bit to make sure that you kill more quickly with everything, or more guaranteed with everything. And then maybe like a decent combat orders or something comes into play, because it increases all of your 4th job skills. So like the base attack of all your skills, plus like an extra % here, an extra % there. It depends on what class. Some classes scale better off of certain skills, but like decent combat orders, usually one that starts rearing its head somewhere in the next like 3 slots or so, 2 or 3 slots usually is like, hey, have you considered me? I don't know how speed infusion is 100% on Illium. Have you looked that up?
I asked about it in the Discord. They said just use, like, if I was just gonna use it in like boss fights, I said just use the Monster Park potions instead until I get the hyper stat, I guess, or the inner ability, I think it's called.
Right, yeah, because you need all of it to be like, yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, because that's going to flip your attack speed and how fast you move anyway, so you might as well just get used to slower now and then get the double speed switch later. That makes sense. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I don't think I don't think I could tell you more than like an Illium like Discord could tell you. They probably are on top of that, as long as you keep track of having your important I guess when it comes to mobbing and stuff, as long as you have your your spear and explosion stuff, right? The
big
reaction, domination, and destruction, and then the javelin and the wing javelin, like radiant javelin, wing javelin. As long as you have those decently boosted, then you should be fine. I guess you're prioritizing the boost nodes, right?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just, I don't know. It looks like that. Yeah, I definitely take out a few. Like when I'm bossing, I'll take out. I used to take out Holy Symbol, but now realizing now it gives me drop rate, so I probably shouldn't take that out for bossing.
Yeah, if you
So I'll
if you
probably take
pretty
out
much
another
have
skill.
what you want, and like the opportunity cost of like one extra skill will be like, oh, maybe it's like 1% final damage increase. I don't think that's worth losing the utility of like having to switch your Holy Symbol with a boost node before the end of the boss fight just to get your drop rate. And then usually I'm like, just keep Holy Symbol, and I don't want to deal with all that. Yeah.
I usually just put my the bind or whatever, or the Nova or something it's called. Yeah, I usually put that in over some sort of like the gate or the Holy Symbol.
Yeah, whatever you
Just to
feel
help
gives you the
sometimes.
least. Yeah. I guess comparatively, if you feel like the boost node is useful, it might be worth considering putting the boost node into the skill node slots instead, and maybe also your Holy Symbol because of the extra EXP and the extra drop rate per level. The skill nodes usually by themselves are very, very strong even at the lower levels. And the real min-maxing of the skill nodes comes to when basically the boost nodes are kind of done, and when the amount of slots that you have that are level up to level 5 are just so many that you don't really have much to work with anymore. And then the skill nodes are just like the logical next step. Unless a skill node like goes down in cooldown or goes up in uptime or a combination of the two, you don't really need to focus on leveling it, because it's just going to one-shot even at level 1, right? Like that your big summon, whether you put him in a level 3 slot or you put him in level 0 slot, he's probably going to kill just the same. But if you put a boost node in a level 3 slot, maybe for mobbing it's also the same, but for bossing you're looking at a 6% final damage increase on all 3 of those skills. all the time at 100% uptime, right? So that might actually make more significant difference when it comes to bossing. So I would, in general, so I would just prioritize getting one slot to level 5 and then moving on to the next one, and then just prioritizing boost nodes, and then Holy Symbol, and then like your attacking skill nodes, and then last, very far down last, like your other decent skills, right? Because leveling those is like almost literally useless, especially if you have autopod, or auto buff, I should say. In terms of like prioritizing where to put the skills. But other than that, I mean, it seems like you're on top of which ones you need. You've got the Illium Discord for any more in-depth questions, and you're already switching out stuff and optimizing for mobbing and bossing. So I think on that, you're, I don't see like anything where I need to like try to inject any kind of knowledge that I might have. I think you're on top of all of that.
That's good.
There's some skill nodes that might not be very useful right now, but depending on how far you want to take your character, it might be useful to start leveling them up. For example, Urda's Will and Blink, for example.
What does the Blink do?
So Blink, if you use it on the ground, you'll randomly teleport somewhere in the map, and it has like a 30-second cooldown. So you can use it as a Hail Mary if you're in a boss fight and you're like, okay, I'm 100% dead. You can like pray to RNGesus and maybe get somewhere where you don't die. If you use it while you're in the air, you will float while you hold it for an extended duration, and it'll also make you knock down resistant. So for example, if you see that Lotus is going to push you, you jump, you blink, you'll just like get hit by it, but you won't fly across the map. You'll stay right where you are. So you can use it if you're in a pinch, for example, in Lotus or later in Will, so you don't get knocked around, so you can make sure you don't die to the ground laser in Lotus, also you don't die to the webs on the side in Will, for example. And you can also move while you're floating, so you can also fly up in the air, and since with stuns and everything, you don't fall, you stay floating, it can get you out of a bind every now and then, and it has a pretty short cooldown. Plus it passively gives you weapon and magic attack, so if you do end up maxing it, it does end up giving you 30 weapon and magic attack, which at this point is not worth maxing it at all, but eventually it will be, because when you're min-maxing all of your pieces, there's like a node you're sitting on with a potential 30 magic attack, like that's an incredible increase compared to, you know, redoing all your flames or something. That's going to be massively more expensive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are nodes that like right now might seem like they don't have much value. I wouldn't craft them or anything, but if you get them, just keep them and just level them up within themselves, and they'll get to like level 5 or 6, you know? And then by that time, you know, you want to fully commit to the character, you can start leveling them up, you know, after all of your basic skill nodes, right? Because that's where all your damage comes from. But just, you know, not to get rid of all of them now and then be like, oh shit, they end up being useful afterwards, and now I have to craft them all. Same thing with Urda Nova, right? Urda Nova you're probably already keeping, but it's gonna get a big buff and cooldown reduction, and it's gonna be an instant AoE instead of like a projectile single target, which is just really bad. So that should help with the utility of that skill a lot. So starting to level that up now slowly will get you to the situation where you can hard capitalize on it later.
Okay. So Blink, and then switch a few out of my my boost nodes with like my Knight, because he's really strong.
Yeah, and maybe with the first skill as well, right? The what is it, crystalline charge
the
or whatever it's called? Yeah. Because I assume that, you know, maybe for bossing you want to move it in there, but you're looking at 3 skills potentially gaining, all of them gaining 6% final damage, versus 1 skill that has a pretty long cooldown, during that time gaining, I don't know, like 50% damage because of levels or something like that. So you have to weigh the pros and cons there. As you're not super burst heavy yet because the skills are not a high level, you don't have access to all of your burst skills yet because you have limited slots in your matrix. The percentage of the total damage that skill is going to do might get overpowered by having your boost node in there instead, because that is being hit all the time, and that is giving you extra damage all the time. So maybe for a Night Lord, you could be like, fuck it, I'm going to put Spread Throw in there, right? Because I'm just so heavily bursty. But for Illium, if you find that you still do a lot of damage the whole time and it's not that much burst, then comparatively that might be a better move. So that could also be something you experiment with. But I would definitely just level 1 slot to 5 at a time and then move on to the next slot, just to keep kind of clear, like, which slot is leveled up. You can keep it the way that you have it now, but I would just work getting everything to 5 and then start with a new slot so you can have a clear priority of what goes where.
Yeah, I was kind of all over the place leveling up my...
Yeah, and that's fine, yeah.
Now that I'm looking at it.
Yeah, you got a 5, 3, 3, 1, you got a 4 and a 2 in there, yeah.
Yeah, I'm all over the place.
It's crazy how many you already have, though, because back when I started Matrix, like, that point system didn't exist. And then suddenly it existed, and you got, like, you know, you got, like, a whole bunch of maxed out slots immediately. But it's, like, crazy how many, you're getting, like, 10, I mean, you're getting 28 levels, right, on your skill nodes just because you leveled, so that's That really added a whole layer of level of value to just gaining levels, which is kind of nice. Okay, good on VMatrix.
Yep.
All right, cool.
Good there.
In your system, I guess you don't have any pictures of familiars. What do you know about those, and are you worried about those at all?
Are they at the bottom? Near the...
Oh, maybe it's underneath the equips. Yeah, sorry, I didn't scroll all the way down. I just assumed it was all equips. Oh, they're on the bottom. Yeah, I found them.
These are, I don't know, like a holy grail. I feel like.
Yeah.
It gives me so much IED for me personally. It gives me like 25% or something like that. That's crazy. Yeah, I remember like when the junior boogies first came out, my brother like begged me to go get them in the in the map.
Yeah, you've got
a
trove.
Other than this, I have no idea how this system works. Like absolutely none. Like.
Yeah, I have a command for that, but basically epics don't drop at all anymore. It's just commons and rares. So you wait until you train in an area where familiars drop as you're training. And then you, like for a new character, what you would do is you would just take all the familiars you get as you're building up your legion, just throw those all into storage. And you know, if you're training in the same maps on all the characters, it wouldn't be like 55 different types of familiars. It'll be like 4 or 5 different types, right? Because of the different maps where you train in. Well, maybe 8 or 10, because it'll be commons and rares, right? And they don't stack with each other. And then any character you want to do some bosses on, you can reveal them, because you're basically looking for those 15% IEDs early. That's the main thing. But you can't really do anything with them, because you need to fuse them and level them up to get to epic, and you need so many of the same kind. You need to throw 100 of the same kind onto one for one chance of fusing it up to the next level. So it's really not useful to do that mechanic at all in the early stages of the game. So it's usually once you start training in Esfera where they drop, or later in Moonbridge where they drop, then you get so many cards when you're training, and hopefully by that time we've worked on meso obtain and drop rate, right? So you get a decent amount of them. Do you have any with drop rate, by the way, or are these the only ones that you kept?
I have a few. I have like one with the meso drop rate, and then one that's like a small chance or something like that. But
did you ever get the spider before?
No, I didn't get the spider. I only got the junior buggies.
I see. Yeah, well, the spider was like before the system, right? Because they had like a set line specifically that got a certain. But now it's like, you know, whatever you get just depends on the rarity, not on which familiar it is, basically. So like any epic can get this, any rare can get the set of these, and it's all in the familiar command as well. There's like a database there, like what are the potential outcomes. So once you get to an area where they actively drop, you basically just save them. You'll take the commons and throw them into like fuse them. If you've looked into, there's like a fusion category, right, in the familiars, and then you can fuse the I guess I can open it. Boom, boom, boom. You can go to fusion, and then you select one, and then if you have any other ones of the same kind, just also blue shadows, they'll show up here. Ideally use the common ones to throw them all in here, and they'll just, you know, they'll just show up, and it'll tell you how far it goes, and then you can fuse. And if it's all the way at 100, you also need to level up the card by having it summoned with you as you're killing monsters around your level. So you'll probably also want to make sure that you unlock at least one extra familiar slot. I don't know if you've done that already.
Yeah, I have 2 right now.
Yeah, you have 2. Yeah. So hopefully you have one with some drop rate, and then the other one with a familiar that you're leveling. And then if they're level 5 and they're max fused, you can click rank up, and then you get an attempt at a certain percentage. Again, that's all in the information to rank up, and then they become epic. And then in info you can reveal them, and then hopefully there's something good, but most likely they're going to be shit, and then you just do it over again. The main thing you're going to be looking for in epic is these lines, so you already have these. Increase item drop rate by a large amount is huge, because if you can use that as your summon, all of your bossing is going to go better, right? More flames, more cubes, more backups for certain items, more familiars while you're training. But most people are going to be looking for these familiars, so if you get the item drop rate, you're pretty much done. The only other thing you'd want is large amounts of healing for teammates or for allies. If you can get that, that'll make some boss fights very useful later. But when it comes to mobbing and bossing, you're already set, so you're mainly looking for the utility when you're mobbing and the utility when you're bossing, so you have more options to go on. So
there's no purpose in leveling these up right now, these junior buggies, like.
So what'll happen if you kill? So if you have the summoned, you see the top 2 you probably use for your bossing, right? Because you've killed some bosses with it. If they level up, they gain a little bit of attack and a little bit of defense. And the more defense a familiar has, the less it consumes your summon gauge. So the longer you can have them out without that running out.
Okay. I can't say I've ever gotten close to running out of summon gauge though.
Yeah, that's like, typically it's like 2 full hours if you have any familiars that, like a full totem you can usually do, but if you're going to do like longer sessions, is there some kind of event that boosts you for 4 hours a day and something, and then you can use that familiar energy, right, that you can buy in the shop.
Yeah, I saw that. You
so if you've
halfway or something.
Yeah. So if you've extracted familiars before that, then you have a little bit of energy lying around. You can sometimes replenish 50% just with the little jerry can thing. Familiar essence, yeah. Yeah, other than that, you're golden for quite a while. But yeah, like a big drop rate would be huge. But other than that, yeah, a little bit of healing. That's all you're really looking for in Epic. And then you can immediately start throwing them at the next character. Is
the small amount of healing good, or is that just...
It's a good start. Yeah, I mean, it's a good start. If it's on a second line or if it's on top of another healing, that's good. I believe it's something like 5, 10, 15%. So like it also does something, but like, so the one that does bossing and a small amount of healing to nearby allies, that's a good match. Of course, that's a nice middle ground. And then eventually, once you're in the realm of 6k Legion in your 250s, working towards Hard Lucid, Hard Will, right? You're in that area. You also probably want to try at that point to go to 3 familiar slots, which means you need 10 badges, so that's considerably higher. And then you can equip, then you have even more utility. You can be like, okay, you can start mass producing familiars if you want to, though that's not super useful for you, right? Because you have the ID and the boss already. But many other players would do that, where they have like 1 drop, and then they're leveling 2 familiars at a time to throw all of their cards into to make a bunch of epics to try to get these lines. But also when you're bossing, you can do like, okay, I'm going to do 1 healing and 1 boss and 1 IED. I'm going to keep all my stats, all my metrics clean, and I'm going to do a little bit of party healing, and then you have more options to fit what is the need of the party. Party's all dying out. Okay, maybe I just go full 3 healing, and maybe, do like a hyperstat setup where I get all of my IED there, and then kind of take a little bit of a hidden damage, but I increase the survivability of everyone. Maybe a support will do that a bit more, right? If they're not doing as much of the damage output, they'll take a little bit more of the party healing into their account. But if people are already doing that and everyone's survivability is good, you can go harder on the bossing. So the more familiars, the more you can mix and match, and the more you can optimize for the situation.
Okay.
Good. Yeah, so you can check ! familiars. It's got all of the data there, all the numbers once you get to that point and you want to, freshen up or your knowledge and make sure that you're not missing anything important. But other than that, I don't know if you have any questions.
Non-familiars, no.
Okay. I guess we can...
Okay for right now.
Yep. I mean, I guess we can get into the equips then.
Yep.
Is there anything specifically that you wanted to start with? Like, we have 3 major ways of upgrading, right? We have the Star Force, and we have the Potential, and we have the Flaming. To which extent do you feel like all 3 of these make sense to you? Or is there like general questions you have on either of those?
I kind of understand like the whole like the systems behind them. I mean, I was just wondering, like, my main question was, with the fake Arcane Gauntlet, would a 5-set Absolab be better with, instead of just, you know what I mean, like with the 5-set or 4 or whatever it's, I forget how many it is, I think it's 4. Would that be better than just having the fake Arcane and then having like a 3-set or a 4-set Absolab?
Right, so you're asking like going 5-set for the 30% boss on Absolab, right? Versus going the fake Arcane with 4-set. Or is it worth going fake Arcane with 5-set and then switching out the Arcane hat for an Absolab hat, for example?
Yeah, that's
those are like your 3 situations, right? So in all likelihood, the set bonuses are going to change in the next update, where the boss damage isn't going to fully come from the 5-set Arcane anymore, but it's going to be split over the pieces a bit better. This is to make it so that people can switch from Absolab into Arcane more cleanly, and they don't have to like sit on full Abso, get the Arcane weapon, make the hat, and then sit on that until they have all of the pieces, and then switch all of the Abso for Arcane in one go. They want people to be able to move into that more cleanly and feel more of a general sense of progression moving in from Abso to Arcane. But what that also means is that also switches it on the front end if you have the Arcane weapon, where it's not going to be as important anymore to really try to strive for that 5-set, because the 5-set is not going to be as top heavy anymore, and it's going to be more distributed over the other ones. So in your situation, I think you can cleanly just settle with the have the fake Arcane weapon, have is it 4 set Abso and have 3 set CRA and be fine like that until you are slowly going to move from the Abso into Arcane, and then move into that one piece at a time, and then immediately the other pieces will set bonus with the fake weapon. And then once you get the other 4 pieces, then you can start working on like a real weapon. Or if you get a drop in the meantime, you can already start slowly working on that. But just the fake weapon by itself, I mean, you've probably seen like the base magic attack of that compared to any other weapon around your level, right? It's just insane, right? So the amount of upfront damage, and even the fact that the potential isn't amazing and isn't that great, it's just brain dead, just damage out the ass. So and anything else you can do to build around that, get a lot of mileage out of that piece, and focus your funding more on all the other stuff is depending on how long you keep other things, right? So that's usually how I look at it, is like, what is the potential for getting damage out of this piece, and how long are you going to keep it? Those are usually, and to a third extent, like, how much of this value that you invest are you going to be able to maintain or transfer to something else, right? Those are usually the main things that I look at in sense of like, how far do we upgrade something. But that is a piece that, by and large, sticking ahead of the crowd very easily on, this is going to stick with you for quite a while, plus it's just got insane potential for damage. So,
and obviously the real one's better, so I eventually wouldn't want to get the real one. What about the soul?
Not initially, right? Like, if you get it clean, it's worse, right? So it requires a bunch of financial investment to get better, because that's how you always look at it. When people are like, "Oh, what's better, Absolab or Pencilier?" Well, is it clean Absolab and is it 22-star Pencilier? I'll have the Pencilier, please, right? Because by the time you would upgrade your Absolab so far that it would get beyond the other piece, I would want to move into Arcane by then. So I'd gladly take the Pencilier, save all my money, and spend it directly towards Arcane than to bother with 0-star Absolab at that point. So the same way you want to look at this is like, the real weapon can get better than this, definitely, mainly because of the potential, right? You can get percentage magic onto that. That would be huge compared to this. But you have to make sure you have a backup for the critical rate, right? First of all. And then second of all, the amount of money invested into it before it gets better, you could also move that money to other pieces instead, get a lot more value out of it, make sure that you can still clear all the monsters near your level, can still do the bosses properly, and then when you're just drowning in money and you got nothing to upgrade anymore, then you can upgrade this weapon to a real weapon and then get a huge upgrade, which on all the other pieces would cost way more. Then it is when it comes in, right? That's when it becomes a priority. So don't go to it too quickly. But have it definitely as like a trump card, hold it onto it, and then when you do switch, it'll be a huge difference.
Okay. And I also noticed, like, I get like 30% crit rate from my... I honestly didn't even notice it until yesterday. I got like 30% crit rate from my gear, which is...
Yeah, what is it? 8 in the secondary, 12 in a weapon, and then do you also have the fake Dom?
Yeah, and the Dominator Pendant I got some crit rate there.
Yeah, so that's 20. Yeah, that's 26. Yeah, that's huge, right? And in the...
that's a lot.
And in the invulnerability, is that something that Illium eventually wants? Do you guys want critical rate in there? I'm going to guess then. Well, that's also probably why you haven't really felt the pressure to work on critical rate in your Legion and your Link skill as much, right?
I'm already at like 94 right now with Sharp Eyes and stuff, so I haven't, but once I get rid of that stuff, I guess it'll be definitely...
Yeah, and it'll take a while before you get rid of that, right? Because while you have it, you don't need to work on those other things as much, but once you do work on them, and you do get access to it, 20 crit is like question mark here, so I guess it'll depend on where you're at. But typically when you're bossing, pretty much everyone throws in the Beast Tamer Link once you get to level 3, right? That's 10 crit and 10 boss and some HP and some MP. That's usually one to throw in there. Sometimes people throw the Phantom in there. It'll just depend on what are the total stats that you have access to. But again, because you're going to keep those for a while, definitely build around the 12 crit for the weapon, right? Because that's going to last a long ass time. But like the secondary, with damage, MP, and crit rate, you're definitely going to be rolling out of that pretty soon. So getting some kind of crit rate back up there, specifically like the Phantom Link and maybe the Beast Tamer even at just level 2, that's going to need to come in to build that gap in critical rate. Because remember the priority of all the stats, right? Critical rate is like way up there. It's very important. It's the baseline for all of your damage that you're going to be committing. If that's high, then your damage output is just increased by so much.
Yeah, and I just got my my Princess Snow Wings, so I'm moving into that.
You're moving into that. Okay, cool. So you're just sitting on these while you're slowly upgrading the other ones. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Okay.
And also the question about, so the 30% off Star Forcing is coming next week.
This weekend, right?
Okay, this weekend.
I believe it's the 6th, right? I think because because this is the last week of the event. So after this, we'll have new Sunny Sundays. So those will be announced in the next patch notes, and then we'll see what we have. KMS had a 5, 10, 15 during the event, so not quite sure. So it might be that you can prep now, and like in a few weeks send it again. But we'll have to see during the patch notes. But yeah, so this weekend, 50% off Inner Ability, I believe, and 30% off Star Force. Yeah.
What do you like? What do you think my goal is? Should I get everything to 15 stars, or should I go for like everything? Because I have like, I have like 4 bill. I'm 4 bill right now, but I was wondering like if it like it's probably not even enough to get everything to 17 stars. But I was wondering like, should my goal just be to get every single piece that I have to 15 stars that I'm going to keep for a while, or?
Yeah, it'll definitely be the parts that you want to push towards 17, because getting to 15 is very inefficient. It's pretty expensive. You might have to safeguard some pieces, and you don't get much stat out of it whatsoever. The real reason you get things to 15 is because you want to push them to 17 right after, and that's when you get a lot of rewards, because that's when you get more stat and you get the magic attack for every level. So that should always be the main way that you're looking at getting things to 15 is, are you getting them to 17 soon after that? Is that the next logical step that you can also, within like a month or two after that afford? Because otherwise you don't really have to go to 15. You can just work on your potentials a little bit more, or work on your flames a little bit more.
Okay. And then let's say there is the 5, 10, 15 in the patch notes. Should I wait for that to go to 17? Or should I just
always wait for 5 to wait for 5 to 15? Yeah, it's just so much more efficient. And mainly in the beginning, when you're limited on backups, you don't want to have to like safeguard everything or risk the booms too much. 5, 10, 15, just 15 to 16 being 100%. Even at 15 to 15 to 17, it saves you so much. But if you're going ever beyond that, just you can play around with the calculator a little bit and look at the numbers, look at the average booms and stuff. 15 to 16 being 100%, not having to safeguard, just saves you so much money. So much that if you compare it to 30% off, you need to go at least to 21 or to 22 before 30% catches up on average on the cost. But it never but on the booms it goes to like 3-4x the amount, which means that the standard deviation is much wider, right? Because your chance of booming is so much higher that the chance that you have to restart the item and actually get closer to that full cost becomes higher. So then it becomes a numbers game. It's like, oh, do you have CRA backup? You could be like, fuck it, I'm okay with booming 30 tops, and some people do that to get to 21 or to 22. And for me, it's always just like, just give me the 5, 10, 15. Give me the, maybe slightly higher average cost, but like way higher guarantee that I'm going to be closer to that number, because the average booms is only 2 or 3 versus like 8, 9, or 10. So I'll be patient and just wait for those 5 and 15s. But to go back to the getting to 15 and 30% off, so I would do the pieces that you have backups for that you don't have to safeguard, and the ones that you can definitely get to 17 after. So usually that's CRA stuff at your stage of the game, and then maybe
I didn't put everything there, but I have CRA backups and stuff like that.
Yep, and then maybe like kind of treasuring. I don't know if you have any backup there. Maybe not. These seem like the pieces you got from the pre-quest, right? But you've been doing Princess Snow for the pieces, so I don't know. You have any rings?
Yeah, I've been doing it with I'm playing like a trio, so I've been doing it with another person. But he's kind of he needs all the other sets.
Rings. Yeah, okay. So you could maybe do Chrono Treasure, but probably the Abzo stuff, right? Because it's level 160, higher level, so getting that to 17 eventually is probably more worth. You probably don't want to risk booming that, so you might have to safeguard that. So I would do the CRA first, and then if you have money left, you can do some Abzo pieces.
And then I have the Absolab shoulder, but right now the treasure set's just better. So. Still waiting on to get a few more Absolab pieces to replace, I guess.
So one thing you can do there, and I don't know if you've seen my transfer hammer video, one thing you can do is, for example, if you get shoulders from Ranmaru, during a 5, 10, 15, you can just try to brute force those. Sorry, not during 5 to 15, during 30% off, you can try to brute force those to 15. If they boom, it's whatever, but you don't have to safeguard, right? Because if it booms, it's not really a big loss. But if it gets to 15, you can wait for a 5, 10, 15, then get it to 16 guaranteed, transfer it into the Abzo, get the Abzo again to 16 guaranteed, and then you only have to safeguard 16 to 17, and then you're done. And that saves you from having to safeguard every star between 12 and 15 on the Abzo piece. And that'll... And at this stage, save you a significant amount of damage. So you can use the Ranmaru shoulder for that. And you can also use the Enraged Zakum cape to do the same thing, to transfer into the Abzo cape, right? So you're basically looking for 150 pieces to do that. You can use the Ranmaru shoes or the Ancient Root shoes that you can buy in the Root Abyss shop for that as well. If you transfer the current Penciler shoes into those, and then those into the Absolab shoe, so you can kind of like have them ready so that as soon as you get the Absolab, all you have to do is like get OK Flames on Absolab, transfer hammer, whatever you have in there, and boom, you're like already almost done. You're immediately gonna have a 15 star, and all you need to wait is for 5 and 15 and get those last 2 stars in, and boom, you're done.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't even know. I kind of understood the transfer hammer, but I didn't really understand the transfer hammer. So now it makes sense a little more.
Yeah, so it costs 1 star, so you want to make sure that you always go 1 over a safe spot. The lowest safe spot is well, the only significant safe spot really is 15, so you typically want to transfer at 16, but it's way easier to get backups for the 150s typically, and since you can get backups, you don't have to safeguard, so it saves you considerable amount of money, because in the beginning you don't want to start like gambling Abzos and blow up and have to do weeklies and clears again. It's a whole mess, right? So I'll definitely check out the transfer hammer video. It'll explain it into much greater detail on why you would want to use certain pieces somewhere. It's a little older video, so it's also looking at possibly going into like 22 Abzo. That's not really of this time anymore, right? Typically you just go into 17 Abzo. Some people go into 18 or 19 if they want to try hard, but in general you just get 17 Abzo, you get it okay upgraded, and then you just set your eyes on working on your accessories and maybe on your CRA a bit more, but in general, armor-wise, you're just looking for arcane Umbra stuff at that point.
Okay. What about with the with accessories? Where would the next step be with an eye accessory? I've kind of had this thing for I feel like ever.
The aquatic, yeah. So some people go for the bean mark if they don't want to if they want to keep the set bonus and they don't want to spend too many dineros. For Commercy, are you going the long approach, short approach? Are you aware of the difference between the two?
I didn't know there was a long or short. I'm definitely doing it some days. I got like 220 coins.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Some days, yeah. That's how most people do Commercy, yeah. There's basically the way where you just try to get as many dineros per day instantly that you can, just to get the accessories fast and then kind of get out. There's also a longer term approach when you work on getting EXP for your boat, level up your boat to the level 3 boat, to the Dreadnought, and then you can just cash in on the fastest early voyage and just do that 112 a day. You can get your you get way more dineros per day, and you eventually catch up on getting to the finish line, depending on how many stars you want to get and how many backups you will need, etc. Because we want to transpose a Dominator, right? We probably want to use the Monocle, probably want to use the Tattoo, get it to high star force and 1 backups, and some people get it to 19, get it to 21 before you even see a pitch boss piece, or until you even see a Papulatus mark to transpose into the Monocle. So you will just need dineros for backups so that you don't have to safeguard the whole thing, right? So you basically get value out of the dineros by not having to safeguard, that kind of thing. So if you want to go that route, you want to definitely level up your boat with priority, and you don't want to spend too many dineros, because the upgrading of your boat costs dineros, so you don't want to spend too much money buying the accessories. So you can just like safeguard the Sweetwater Tattoo to 17, use the black beam mark on the side, and basically just focus on leveling up your boat. And then once your boat's leveled up and you can start getting like 50 plus dineros a day, then you can start looking at, okay, get it. Hopefully by that time you have a Dominator pendant, you can start flaming that a little bit, see if you can get a good setup there, and then buy a pendant if you want to start transposing, because transposing costs dineros as well every time, and that can set you back several hundred dineros if you're a little bit unlucky there, because that's a low chance. And then once you can start, working on the Monocle, and then once you can start going past 17, you just want those dineros as a backup. So depending on how much you think you're going to play and how far you're going to get into the game, one of the two setups just makes more sense. If it's just a bossing mule, then maybe you don't even worry about this content at all. If you're just trying to get up to Lotus and Damien and that's whatever, then you can just get one of the pieces and just get out. You just get a total of like 1,000 dineros and you just move on. But if you're planning on, going to 255, 260, 270, whatever, you probably want to go the boat route. It just, in the long term, it makes the most sense.
Okay. And I already have the superior earrings. What about like? So obviously I know that the earrings can drop, and I think the belt can drop.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I guess I was understanding. Like, should I replace my necklace for my horntail necklace first, or should I replace one of my rings first? That was another one of the questions I had.
In general, when it comes to that kind of question, it's the same kind of question of like, what Absolab piece do I get first? What arcane piece do I get first? Right? It's usually, well, it's just which one is the biggest upgrade, right?
Okay, yeah.
So if you have 3 rings, then obviously you go for the ring first because it's like a full upgrade. If you have 4 rings and one of them is pretty garbage and is going to get replaced anyway, or maybe is made for drop and mezzo, so it's not really giving the drop and or mezzo, and is not really giving you much range at all, then that's probably the one you switch out first. If the pendants you have are just, you know, is like a 6% intellect mechanator with like 11 stars and that's it, that's probably going to be a very big upgrade. In general though, as long as you have pieces in there and they give you set bonus, you can also just hold off on switching, because the naked pieces of superior are actually kind of bad. The main value that they have is because they can get the 17 star and those bonus stats. But even more than that, the main value is when they get the set bonus, you know, they get the boss damage and the IED. So until like the 3 set you can kind of think about, but unless you're really going full 4 set, there's no real pressure on making them into the whole set too quickly, because you might end up spending a lot of money on them for not that big of an upgrade, and you'd rather have that money be floating around for, oh, what if I do get the Sweetwater monocle, or what if I do get a black bean mark, or what if there is a 30% off and I want to start getting things to 15 so I can get them to 17. Those are then kind of more guaranteed upgrades than, you know, gaining like a little bit of stat and maybe a little bit of weapon attack of a superior ring. I don't even think a 17-star superior ring is much of an upgrade compared to like a Reboot Awake ring, for example. So if you can get your hands on more event rings, which I didn't remember if they were coming in the Choo-Choo event or not. We went over the thing. I don't think they were in there. That could already lead to like, oh, that's just already a bigger guaranteed upgrade. So you don't have to move into them immediately just because, you know, you get the pieces or because you can afford them. It's mainly going to be more useful to have the money ready so that you can upgrade them to a good point, so that once you have the 4 set, you can immediately move into them.
Okay.
Because unlike the, you know, Abzo and the Arcane set, they are still very top heavy on the on the superior. If they split that out a little bit more, then that will change the meta there and how quickly you move over. But right now it's kind of an all or nothing kind of thing. Yeah, you're fine to sit on boss accessory pieces because the set bonus is quite nice, right?
Mm-hmm. And so I have another question. Like with I know drop gear is kind of far away, but I'd like to eventually.
I don't think it's super far away. I think you're getting very close to it. So,
okay.
If I could take the reins a little bit and just go, you know, look at everything that you have. I think when it comes to priorities, when it comes to like flaming, you know, just to go by the 3 major categories, right? Well, let's start with Star Forcing. When it comes to Star Forcing, right, like the next 30% off upcoming, definitely try to get the CRA up there, and then maybe the Abzo gloves, transfer, safeguard them. But even that, I would probably put it in a little bit of a lower priority. I probably see if you can get Remru shoulder, maybe transfer over the shoe, right, and the cape, and try to see if you can get those to 15. Because you don't have to safeguard those, so on average those will be a lot cheaper, and see if you can sit on 15 for those so you can have them ready when the Abslab comes. Star Force wise, that's probably the only thing I would really focus on, because that's already going to eat up a lot of your money.
Okay.
Flame wise, I would you know about Flame Advantage, and you know about Flame Scores a little bit?
I know a little bit. I don't really know how to. I mean, I've heard the terminology, I guess, but I haven't really heard anything else about that.
Sure. I mean, I'm just gonna send a bunch of links to you in Discord with a lot of homework,
Yeah,
but after that, it'll all of the things will fall into place. I'll just shortly go over it, like really quickly, and then hopefully the video irons out all the details. And then if there's still anything left over that you don't understand, you can always hit me up on Discord. But it should fully complete like your basic knowledge on these things. I'm not trying to make you like an expert where you can just spot an item and like instantly say like 122.3 or something, right? Like that's not that's not the goal here. But so in general, when it comes to flame score, you're just trying to gauge what is a healthy value that I'm aiming for, and that is always, and this all, I guess we really I didn't really open this, but like have you seen the progression grid?
I've seen it before, I think on stream, but
yeah, and probably most of my sessions, if you've seen a little bit of those,
yeah.
there's a lot of it. So basically, this tries to look at like what is not only like what can you work on, where can you work on, and what is going to give you the best like gains, but that's predicated on like what is your expected returns, right? And when it looks for flames, you're basically looking at what are your expected returns. And the whole thing is basically trying to optimize where do you spend your money to get the highest expected returns efficiency for your cash. That's basically what this whole thing comes down to. And then cash is then translated to time, so you can take time as an equal and then translate that to Legion level, and then basically you kind of compare everything. It's not like objectively. I don't have a whole bunch of numbers behind this. A lot of it is kind of touch and go, so I'm always open to feedback. But in my experience, this seems to map on pretty closely to where people end up being and where people end up spending their time and their money, basically. Okay. So when it comes to flames, there's just numbers there that I think make sense, and that is predicated on, you know, what is reasonable to get, how long are you going to keep the item, right? How long are you going to maintain the value? What are your expected returns based on if it has flame advantage or not? That's also explained in the video. Some items just don't have flame advantage, which just means that the flames on them are just garbage. You've probably seen the flame on like your Sweetwater tattoo, right? Where it's like 3 speed and 3 all stat. No, comparatively, that's already pretty good. But you see the same flame on your Aquatic Letter I accessory, which is level 100 versus the level 160 tattoo. And that one has 45 intellect, 4% all stat. And you're like, right, there's something fishy going on here, right? So that's like the difference between having flame advantage and not having flame advantage. It's usually indicated by a small amount of numbers or just smaller numbers by themselves. There's just a lower chance of getting high numbers. Like a Pink Holy Cup, for example, it has flame advantage. You can get some really nice numbers on there. You see the 6% all stat, that's carrying that item, right? You see the Abso Glove, that has flame advantage. The numbers are big. There's a lot of numbers on there. And then you see, well, your shoulder, that one cannot get flames, also very clear. And then your belt, also the jump and the all stat. These are the old flames where jump and all stat were mostly together. That's from before the compensation. I see that, right? They had to they had to give a whole lot of compensation for that stuff. We saw jump and all stat together on almost all the items. And then the items with flame advantage, like the CRA, that's like one of the sets of pieces where you tend to push a little bit harder early on. You see your top, for example, is really nice, right? You got intellect. And you got some luck, and you got magic attack and all stat, all big numbers. So that one's really nice. And then you got your hat. It's got the same all stat, but it's got none of the other ones. So comparative to the top, it's probably it's going to be worse. And then the pants is going to be a little bit in between because it's a little bit lower on all stat, but it also has some intellect and some luck. So it's going to be better than the hat, but not as good as the top. And you can say better here because you can freely compare them. They're all 150. They're all flame advantage. They have the exact same odds for quality of the flame, so you can compare these 1-to-1. But what the flame score tries to help you with is how can you compare items 1-to-1 when one does not have advantage, one does, one is level 100, one is level 150, one is a weapon, one is not, right? Like, how do you compare all of this? So basically the numbers on here are like general numbers you can aim for. And once you understand the flame score, and there's a calculator and everything that'll help you out in the beginning, once the numbers are like roughly around these numbers where you want to look at, then you're fine and you can move on. If they're absolutely way lower, you can probably get a lot of value and prioritize it in the flames that you have. The only real thing that you want to really emphasize on and get a good flame on in the beginning is your weapon, and the higher level the weapon, the more important it is. So for flaming, I would say definitely prioritize the Umbra Lucent Gauntlet. Okay. Because we can look at the calculator for a little bit.
Need some all stat on it. Is all stat like basically the best thing you want to get, right?
On armors, yes. On weapons, it's something that can sweeten the deal, but it's not the priority because you can get a lot of magic attack, you can get boss damage and percentage damage, and then all stat. So all stat is only like the 4th highest priority. But for regular armors, it's basically flat stat and all stat are like by far the most important. So there it's like tied for number 1 or it's like close number 2. So all stat is definitely a lower priority on weapons. So this is what the calculator looks like, and you know you'll probably play around with that a little bit. So here you picture what you're flaming for late game or for end game. For weapons, it doesn't really matter. It's mostly for this here, so that the numbers are a little bit different because it's based on the balance of all the stats in your account, right? Some things are going to scale a little bit better, some things are scale a little bit worse. But we're looking for the weapon, you know, just as an example. So you look at the weapon level, so that's a 200 to 239, right? And then you need to know the base attack. So for you, that's 347. And then basically up here, it's going to immediately tell you like what tier the flame is. So you've got a 92, right? So that's the main thing that we're going to look for. So that's a tier 4. So if you were to try to hit a tier 6, which is, I think, ideally what you want to have here, even without anything, that's 167 magic attack. So that would be an
Okay.
extra 75 magic attack. And you can compare here if you want to how much 75 magic attack is, but that's like a flame score of 225, which is probably more than all of your CRA combined has right now, just for getting the higher tier on the weapon. And then on top of that, you could also say like, oh, I'm trying to get some boss damage and something, but I think just aiming for a tier 6, especially because it's a magic attack, and especially because magic attack have very high bases, the flame there is going to be more important, because well, flames basically are a percentage of the base attack of the weapon. The higher the level, the higher the percentage, and the higher the base, the higher the number. So you've got like a perfect storm here for really wanting a high level flame magic attack. So if you really want to, you can then use the other calculator, which calculates like how many flames it's going to be. This is like the whole process. You're never going to do this whole thing with everything, right? Maybe in the beginning to get an idea, but after a while it's just going to make sense. You'll see the number. So you'll be like, oh, I'm just other class, weapon, I'm going to use powerful flames, I'm going to go for tier 6 weapon, and then, you know, let's say no damage, no boss damage, let's just calculate this. You see, like, medium flames is 23, powerful flames, average is 34. When it comes to, like, how much that's going to cost you, it's just so much cheaper than anything else that you're going to be flaming for the amount of possible results, right? If you look at your top, for example, that has, like, a flame score right now, I think, of, like, 90. So if we do, I like putting this to 9, honestly. On your top, let's say we want to get something significantly better so that it's even worth flaming for. So we're going for like 95. That's like somewhere between like 70 and 100 flames. And then you're gaining 5. And for the weapon, we're gaining, well, how much was it? Do you remember? 225, right? It's like the expected return. Yeah, so hopefully this... So when I look at the items, that's immediately what I see when I see the flame here. And hopefully after watching the flame video and playing around with that a little bit more and just throwing things into calculator, you'll get to see what to me is like a glaring like, oh my god, this is so important. And to you it's like, I think that flame is pretty good. Like 92 magic attack is a lot. And it is a lot, but it could be so much better even, right? And then compare it to everything else. So you'll start to see as you go through the commands more and to go through the videos more how impactful some things can be compared to other stuff. So like flame wise, I would say that is definitely top priority by far, and then it would be the highest level equips that you have with flame advantage, so it would be Absolab once you have it, and then just slightly lower with flame advantage, so it's going to be CRA and then your pink holy cup, but those are already like on the way. So it'll basically be just getting your your hat a little bit better. And other than that, it's mainly going to be just holding on to your flames for when you slowly get into Abso, and those are going to be priority by far. And as long as you're flaming around that point, you're doing absolutely well. You don't even have to buy flames, but just any bossing flames you get, throw them on there. I would only buy flames, personally, for your weapon and for items that you're planning to transpose. So once you're at the point for Dominator transpose or Papulatus Mark transpose. And I would only think about those things if everything is already legendary and 17 star. Then I think it's worth to really go and purposefully go for transposing. And when you have your Dreadnought leveled up.
Okay.
To kind of set the flaming. Now when it comes to potential, it's a bit trickier because you want to weave in between all the Star Force events, right? Because there's not that many... cubing events. I think your potential in your CRA is fine. I wouldn't touch that until it's like 21 stars, honestly. So that I would say just don't even touch that for a long time. Maybe you have some black cubes thrown in a hat, see if you can squeeze in a second line, be cheeky. But you're going to be working on your potential in your Abso, and you're going to be working on the potential of your accessories and working on the drop in Mezzo. I think you are pretty close to that, so I wouldn't think like that's too far away. The main thing potential-wise I would work on is try to get a line of critical damage, maybe and a line of intellect, and the line of speed infusion and sharp eyes if you can on the gloves. That way you can, you know, get a free extra matrix slot or get some extra damage. But critical damage is going to be very important on the gloves. It's just so much more. Like one line of critical damage is going to be more for you than 33% intellect if you had like triple intellect line. So that's very important. And the other thing is your secondary, but you already got your secondary, right? You're going to be working on that. Hopefully a combination of IED, maybe, but you probably don't need it because you're familiars. But probably magic attack and maybe boss damage, right? And then your secondary, your emblem is going to be very important. I would, that one to legendary and trying to get 2 lines of magic attack is the brain dead play here and is going to give you an insane amount of damage increase. and because that's going to scale back into the flame on the weapon again. And like if you can get the tier 6 on a weapon, you can get a nice secondary with at least 1 line of magic attack, 1 line boss, or 2 lines of magic attack. You can get your emblem to legendary with 2 line magic attack. At that point, you know, the Star Force is slowly going to go up to 15, slowly up to 17, but the main expense is going to be, well, in recubing the glove, the main expense is going to be getting the accessories to legendary and rolling for meso and drop there, because your kill speed is going to stay just where it is, because your boost nodes are going to level, your arcane power is going to increase, and your WSE is going to carry, right, and the Star Force is going to slowly bring up, and then your accessories are not going to have to do any of the damage. They're going to be only there for meso obtain and drop rate to make sure that when you're training, your rates are going to be crazy. And then because your rates are going to get crazy, well, the one other thing that will also help there is the inner ability, right? So maybe Sunday, see if you can get meso obtain or drop rate on your inner ability, on your top line. That'll probably be useful to just to sit on for a while as well, because that's going to give you a lot of value back. Meso obtain will be great there.
Okay.
Because your baseline of how much money you're going to make when you're just grinding is going to go up so much that every time an event comes around, you'll have the liberty to be like, oh, what do I do? Rather than, can I do anything at all? That's basically the situation you want to get to. And then
Sure. I had a question also about like prime lines and stuff like that. I was watching a stream a few days ago. You mentioned that black cubes only have a chance of giving like 1 prime line or something.
On potential?
Compared to like red cubes are better for giving prime lines or something.
No, black cubes, like pound for pound, have a better chance of giving you. Well, so both of the cubes give you 1 prime line guaranteed on the top line, right? But when it comes to getting multiple prime lines, black cubes pound for pound have more value, even though they're more expensive per. The the increased chance for second and third line to be prime. So for red cubes, it's pretty easy. It's 100% chance for the top line, and then 10% for the second, and 1% for the third line. And for black cubes, I believe it's 100, and then 20% for the second line, and I thought it was 2% or 5% or something for the bottom line. So when it comes per meso, it's better chance for black cubes. So for people who want to go for like 2 lines of crit damage, but I wouldn't do that on Abzo. That's something you do on arcane gloves. Then you go black cubes. Or if you're trying to get 2 lines of meso obtain or 2 lines of drop rate or a combination of the two, which are both prime lines on accessories, then you can, you know, if that's specifically what you're looking for, then you go for black cubes over red cubes. But in any other situation, you always go for red cubes, because since they're so much cheaper, you just get so many more rolls, and it's so much more likely that you get any good roll out of a red cube versus a black cube.
Okay. Is it easier to tier up with black cubes, or?
It's about the same per money. But it'll be faster on black cubes, right? Because since it's per money the same, but you spend more money per roll, it'll be faster. So most people just try to use black cubes for tiering up. It kind of sucks though if you're trying to tier up with black cubes and you end up with a whole bunch of black cubes, and then you're like, do I try to tier up another item? Or do I roll them on the item with a lower efficiency if I'm just trying to look for 1 prime? That's more kind of the situation. So usually I buy a little bit of black cubes so that if I get lucky, I don't have too many left over, or I can use them on another item. And if I get unlucky, I just finish rolling with the red cubes, because it's roughly the same cost for tiering up between all the cubes. I had one here. I have this one. Well, I could open up on stream and I can send it to you. But basically, these are like rates that people discovered just going over a lot of money spent, and it almost looks like a rounding error at this point, right? Like rare to epic seems by far the cheapest with Master Crossman over black cubes, right? Only almost half the cost, so that's probably more efficient. But epic to unique is so close that it's probably a rounding error. It's probably like around 200 mil, maybe a little bit more on average. And then unique to legendary, you also see like very close, right? So you know, when it comes to the total, on average, it's a little bit higher for black cubes, but it's made faster, and the higher level the item, the lower the reveal cost, right? So people just brute force it with black cubes usually, but it's on average, it's very, very close.
Yeah, I got pretty lucky with my gloves. Only about like 6 red cubes and just got it straight to legendary.
Yeah,
so
that's, you know, yeah.
And I haven't cubed it since, but
yeah. Well, it's sitting on a great, because that's the one thing, like tiering up feels great, but if you don't have the money to roll after you tier it up, then it's pretty much a downgrade, right? So you want to make sure that you have the money to capitalize on that higher tier, otherwise you're basically downgrading. So definitely rolling there for a line of critical damage will net you a whole, like it'll make your range go down, right? Because critical damage doesn't show up in there, but your damage output is going to increase quite a bit.
Okay. Yeah, I was definitely. I'm saving a bunch of my money for the Star Forcing events, I guess, coming up. Which will probably be pretty big.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
potential-wise, you can probably make more gains. So specifically the emblem in the secondary and flaming your weapon, that is probably going to be about the same gains as getting all your stuff that you have at 15 to 17, probably more. And on average might also be cheaper, but when there's an event, that becomes cheaper. So it's okay, you know, and to pull back to the progression grid, sometimes it's okay to go a little bit heavier on one thing because there's an event, because when the event is over, you're just going to correct by investing more in the other piece instead, and it's going to restore the balance. So that's totally fine.
And I had a question about the events. What else should I be, like, obviously I bought the experience node, the boost nodes, and then what else should I be buying from the Pink Bean shop?
Right. So did you buy the did you have black beans? Did you buy droplets from that?
I haven't really bought any droplets. Honestly, I didn't even know what droplets did until about like a few days ago.
Okay.
Should I be purchasing them? I have a lot of black beans. I just didn't know if I was supposed to be purchasing them.
Yeah, well, so those are coming in the upcoming update, right? That's going to be 50 mil each worth. So you can basically see them as a 15 mil item, but that's going to give you access to arcane pieces. It's a little bit far away from you now because you still have the Abzo jump to make and then into arcane, so it's a little bit far away, but you will need a lot of them, right? One armor, to make one armor is 108 droplets, and to make a weapon is 216. So to make the whole set, you are going to need quite a lot of them. Yeah.
Okay, that does sound like a lot.
Yeah, so anything you can get for like free event currency, usually just jump on that. So I would, depending on how many weekly clears you have, right, and how many, I would definitely look at spending your beans towards eternal flames for your like powerful and eternal flames for your weapon to get something juicy out of that. And then if you have something nice, then you can just spend all the black beans on the droplets. Do you have a soul bag at all?
I don't. I was actually thinking about getting that.
Yeah, that's just good value because it keeps your use inventory hella clean, and you can throw all your souls in there. It's like 40 slots for free, so that's usually really good value. Because there is a soul bag again coming in the event after this, but that's going to be a 20 slot soul bag. If you think that's enough for you, you can also just buy that with Mezzo and throw these beans into other resources. But I like having the 40 slot soul bag. It's just, you know, it's twice the size. Bigger is better, right?
And should I be investing in circulators at all, or is that just not right now? Just wait.
No, not right now. Like I would use this Sunday to just roll your top line and see if you can get big amount of drop rate or big amount of Mezzo obtained into the top line, and then just sit on that. And you don't have that much honor experience. You could consider maybe getting a little bit of honor experience from the shop, so you can give yourself some more rolls. This Sunday.
I just got legendary. It took me like I was insane. I don't even understand how I didn't get legendary before that. It took me so long. I just got the
depending on how far you go with the character, sometimes I would advise just roll to unique and then use circulators to get to legendary, and then keep your honor experience to roll inside legendary. Because if you end up spending all of your honor on Sunday and you don't hit big Mezzo or big drop rate, I'd probably use circulators to get that instead, because it's going to be worth the investment. You'll make that back, specifically Mezzo, of course, you know, because the circulators are Mezzo. But drop rate will help as well, more nodes, and then, you know, because nodes are pretty scarce in the event shop, and then the nodes will help make your whole account stronger, faster. So.
Okay. So there's no other purpose in, like, what about the black or the black circulators and legendary circulators? Are those? I don't even know what those do, honestly.
Yeah. Like legendary circulator makes your inability legendary. That's usually for non-reboot because they have to spend money for circulators, so they get that. Chaos circulator just randomly re-rolls within the current tiers the numbers that you have on your lines, so for you that's completely useless right now. And the chaos does that same thing, but you also have the option of picking your before or your after option, so you have that extra value. Because regular chaos just changes it, and that what you see is like you just get that new number. So both of those, or all three of those in your current situation, aren't useful at all.
Alright, that sounds good.
Yeah, I guess we didn't really go over the hyper stats. The further you go, the more you'll see value in having like the separate presets, right? I see you're in preset 3. Do you have one that's specifically for mobbing and one specifically for bossing? Because it seems like you're a little bit all over the place with the numbers there.
Yeah, I kind of just used it because I kind of just did it like super early on, just messed up, and instead of just like resetting it, I just went to the next preset. That's kind of what I happened to do. I don't know exactly what I should be putting, like, investing in on the hyper stats, but
So in general, like priority is crit rate, right? You want to get your crit rate close to 100% or at 100%. And then depending on what you're doing, your second priority is probably going to, well, it's going to be critical damage right after that if you're, regardless of what you're doing, but you probably don't go as high. You kind of usually get like 6 or 7 and kind of see where the rest of your points go. And then if you're bossing, it's definitely IED. Make sure you get the IED high enough, right, to penetrate the armor. And then again for IED, you look at the progression grid. You kind of look at the number that you're looking for. If you don't know about your functional and your physical, visual IED, you can look at the IED video, or you can ask other Illiums like, hey, how high, you know, if my IED on my stat window shows like 90%, is that good enough for these bosses, or do I need to get 94, or is 88 fine enough, you know, depending on it. I don't think Illium has that much functional IED, if I remember correctly, so you probably have to adhere pretty closely to the numbers on the progression grid. For bossing, that's going to be the most important. So it might be that you get like level 9 crit rate, level 6 or 7 critical damage, and like level 10 IED, and then your points are like almost finished already, and then you just spread them evenly over damage and boss damage, and that's basically it. Then you're done for bossing. If you're mobbing, then of course IED isn't that important, and boss damage is also not important. So then you just basically spread the points over damage, damage to normal monsters, and bonus experience, as long as you don't need arcane power. If you need arcane power, that's more important, because that's gonna have an impact on your final damage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are generally the stats that you want. So you're not really gonna want to build where you have all of those, because it's either gonna have IED and boss damage, or it's gonna have the EXP and the arcane power and the normal monster damage at the end. Either one, if you want to min-max. And the more levels you have, the more important that min-maxing is going to be. And then if you have any points left and you're not really leveling fast anymore, then you can go into attack power and intellect to kind of, you know, make sure that those points do something, because every other level is going to be like 50 points or something, and you have like 20 left. Is like, well, yeah, I'm not going to be, I'm not going to get there in like another month or two. So then you can throw them into attack and into intellect if you want to. But in the early stages, make sure you don't go too high on like magic, because if you take that magic attack out and instead you put it into like critical damage, that's just going to have way bigger impact on your damage output than the little bit of attack power that it has now.
Okay.
Especially because you don't have as much percentage magic attack yet, right? Your weapon doesn't have any,
Yeah.
your emblem and your secondary all don't have any, so it's not getting multiplied that much either. And then later, once you have the extra bonus points and you trickle into it, because the other ones are all at like level 11 or 12, and the next level up is like 65 points, then you get the multiplication, and then you get the higher efficiency of the individual points.
Okay. And I don't know, like how far am I like from being able to do obviously like Damien and Lotus and Helix? Not myself, obviously, but
I think if you, so for that I have the the progression grid like keeps track of those numbers, right? So you'll be able to tell for yourself, especially after, you know, figuring all of it out, the 5, 10, 15, working on those potentials and on the flames and getting your WSE, your weapon secondary emblem on point. That's going to make a huge difference already. From then on out, it's mainly going to be just doing dailies, you know, for the arcane symbols, and leveling up your nodes, and then slowly working on the accessories. So at that point, you'll be able to look at the progression grid and see like, where do I really land? Like level wise, I'm in late game, but maybe on all the other metrics, I'm still like stuck in the mid game. So I'm not quite up to my level yet, or maybe some of the metrics are actually ahead of where your level is. I try to use the level as an indicator, and then once you can use the level as an indicator as shown by the progression grid, then you can look at the daily grid and see like what content does that mean that I think you can do around your level. So does that make sense in terms of predictability? Yeah. So let's say that you're now 228, right? Let's say that by the time you're like 230, 235, everything kind of catches up to the level. Then I think you can do everything in the blue areas here. So then I would say like, you know, Morass's Fair dailies are here. Normal Damien is before that. You got like easy Lucid coming up right on that point, and then normal Lucid is like once you hit 240. So that's kind of like where I grade all the content basically.
okay.
Again, as a general guideline, right? Not like if you don't hit this, you suck, or you need to be able to do this, or you should quit. Nothing crazy like that, but just like to get a general idea of whereabouts is it. And I think Helix is Gollux is like separate here, but then has the different level intervals. So like Hell, Gollux will be like around that point. But again, like someone who's pretty new is going to be way more on the high end, right? and then someone who's like it's their 5th character, and maybe they've got a class that just perfectly is able to destroy Helix from a safe distance and doesn't even have to worry about the mechanics. That character is going to be doing it like way earlier. And boost nodes is very important, right? If you throw 3,000 boost nodes on a new character, you're going to be clearing it super fast. If you're starting up with like, you know, just the Terror Burn ones and then 3 per week from Vanishing Journey and 20 from an event store, like it's going to take a little bit longer.
Okay. Yeah, that helps a lot.
Yeah, seem good. I mean, we're at like almost the 2-hour mark now, so
yeah, I know. Yeah,
want to make sure we're not. I know I did go over some topics pretty fast, but you've got the videos, and that should clear in or fill in all the little gaps that you might have.
Yeah, it definitely does. Sorry if that turned into like more of like an explanation video.
Yeah, no worries. There's always different levels of. Yeah, I mean, not to call them knowledge gaps feels a little bit dirty, but like different, you know, pieces of the puzzle missing, and then hopefully I was able to fill in at least the basis of it, and hopefully the rest of the video will solidify that in the whole puzzle. But as long as the general things to work on and like what the general trend forward with all the pieces makes sense to you, then I think you're going to be fine for like the next 6 months, right?
Yeah, I wrote down a bunch of the stuff that you said, so I definitely know what to do first and what not to do.
Yeah, and you know, I'll upload it to YouTube, so you can always check it back and listen to what you sound like on a recording. That's always fun. And you know, if you missed out on anything, if any like significant follow-up questions happen, you can hit me up on Discord. But otherwise, if it's just small questions or clarifications on the video or something, you can always, you know, whenever I'm live, you can jump into the chat, and there's a bunch of other helpful people as well. So should be more than able to help you out with that.
All right, thank you. I'm going to get on that Legion grind or something, I guess.
Yeah, as long as you just evenly keep doing it, just do a little bit. I usually tell people
to get like level 70. It's like at first, I guess. That's when we have a base.
Yeah, that's a good start. And then once, you know, you get like 10, 15, 20 characters, you already start feeling like, oh, these characters are getting stronger. Once you get close to 40, you're like, oh, these characters are way stronger. And every single level 70 is going to be way faster than the last one. So, yeah, it's just, it's starting up is slow. It's true.
Just stacks up,
yeah, exactly. Just power in numbers for sure. Just build a whole legion. I mean, that's why it's called a legion, right? You just build a whole legion of them, and then you can brute force your way through.
All right. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Yeah, just let me know if there's anything. But other than that, I wish you the best of luck, and I'll see you around.
Thank you. Same to you.
All right. Bye-bye. Right, cool. Almost the 2-hour mark, guys. Your totem must be done soon. Make sure you double check. Hopefully you get some good rates. Yeah, if you want one of these sessions, make sure you check the description of the video, or you request it in the store in my stream over on Twitch, or you leave a comment that you would like to win, and then 2 winners get drawn each month. I will be drawing the winners from January soon, so I'll be reaching out to you on YouTube, so keep an eye on your YouTube comments. Other than that, if you need any of these resources, make sure you tune in to my stream. I stream every day. I try to do noon to midnight UTC every day of the week. And you can just fire away or use the commands and just read it on your own time. Check the video, read the ridiculously complicated graph or spreadsheet that I made, and then, you know, work your way from there. Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed watching. Hopefully there's at least 1, 2, or 3 little things that you picked up from this, or one big thing that will help you move forward in the game. And best of luck this Sunday, Interability, Reset, and Star Forcing event. So make sure you check out those commands at least in the chat if you're unfamiliar with how to go about that. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.